the end of, they're essentially closer to the end.
So we can only come out if you want to do a horizon report thing, just
Yep.
explain what we did again and all that.
Okay, yep. Okay, we're back live and online. Revising and reporting out from the in-camera session. We received advice from our solicitor in regards to personnel matters, as well as a report from our director in regards to land acquisition or disposition. And we'll be following the advice that given at that time. Thank you. And the next motion that's on the floor is moved by Councillor Jameson, seconded by Councillor Foti, that 3 readings and final passage be granted to bylaw number 21-059, being a bylaw authorizing the mayor and clerk to enter into a collective agreement between the Township of Leeds and the Thousand Islands and QP Local 5397. Is there any discussion on this motion, gentlemen? Seeing that, oh, go ahead, Deputy Mayor.
Sorry, Your Worship, and through you, it was a long drawn out process, but congratulations to all those involved.
Thank you. Yes, I did give a little, I won't make it long and drawn out, but this was begun before we started as council, and very proud to be here when it's finished. And we hope that we can continue the good relations that we have with our Public Works Department, along with our senior management team and here at council. They have our support and we appreciate the work that they do. And it's been a great year to move things forward. And we have great expectations and hopes for the coming remaining part of the collective bargaining agreement. So I'll call the question. All those in favor, please signify. And it carries unanimously. Thank you, everyone. Next motion that's on the floor, moved by Councillor Foti, seconded by Councillor Jameson, that council receive appraisal reports prepared by Rivington Commercial Appraisers for the Containment Attenuation Zone CAZ lands for both Leeds and Lansdowne waste disposal sites, and that council authorize staff to proceed with negotiations with the owners for the purchase of the lands identified in the CAZ appraisal reports based on values provided. Discussion on this motion. I see. Go ahead, Councillor Maybe.
Thank you, Worship, and through you. Very good thing to get a hold of these lands and so that we can continue our testing to ensure that safe drinking water is part of our township. Thank you.
Any further comments or questions? Seeing none, I'll call the question. All those in favor, please signify. All those opposed? And the motion is carried. Okay, so we're into consent agenda for the minutes. So the motion is made by Councillor Olkey and seconded by Councillor Grell that the September 13th, 2021 council meeting minutes and the October 4th, 2021 committee of the whole meeting minutes be adopted as circulated, and that the July 21st, 2021 EDC and August 30th, 2021 Committee of Adjustment meeting minutes be received and filed. Any errors or omissions within those minutes? Comments? Seeing none, I'll call the question. All those in favor? All those opposed? And it's carried. Next motion, moved by Councillor Olkey and seconded by Councillor Grell, that the committee approve the staff reports as recommended at the October 4th, 2021 Committee of the Whole meeting. So gentlemen, you'll see that there is a number of reports on there. Are there any of the reports that you'd like to have further clarification on or have further discussion on? Seeing none, I will call the question. All those in favor, please signify. All those opposed? And it's carried. Next are the information items. So there's 3 information items on there. Moved by Councillor Olkey and seconded by Councillor Grell that the information items be received and filed. Any further discussion? Go ahead.
Thank you, Worshipman, through you for the financial report. The tax arrears this year are obviously much better than they were past year. Is there any indication of why that may be? Because there is fairly substantial dollars I seen in that. Thank you.
Go ahead, Madam Treasurer.
Through your worship, I think it's noted in the report, but the last year, as council may recall, we deferred the tax due date. So at this time, when we looked at what was owing for taxes, there was a lot more owing because we had deferred the tax due date. So a lot of people hadn't paid yet. So that's why it looks so much better this year.
Also, I have a question, Madam Treasurer, in regards to the, believe we made a change last year in regards to tax arrears that we would not be waiting 3 years, we would only be waiting 2. Are we seeing any fruits of that already coming to fruition?
Yeah, through your worship, I'd have to just double check with the deputy treasurer to confirm. But I know that she has a number of files in progress right now.
Okay. Any further, go ahead, Councilor Gorell.
Through you, your worship, regarding the casino revenues, it seems to be pretty hit and miss. Do we can we open a discussion with the casino people, or would we be dealing with the OLG with the original agreement? If we were to, I don't know, look for a little more clarity of where they're going, their strategy, what it means for us, because these numbers are getting, they're, well, not insignificant, but they're certainly down. And it seems like we're in the dark. Is there any possibility of talking to someone and asking them their strategy or what we can expect? Thank you.
I think I'll answer I'm pretty sure that the agreement is with OLG because our check comes from OLG. The formula is based on what the formula is in the provincial. I think more what you're asking, Councilor Gorell, and correct me if I'm wrong, you're looking at what maybe having better communication about their plans for ratcheting up attendance and how that works from, they have been corresponding with us. Well, I think I got an email a while ago just saying about the reopening and how many people they're allowed to have and that sort of thing. I'm sure we could pass that correspondence along to council, but I think that they're really held back from provincial regulation at this point. Go ahead, CAO.
Absolutely correct, Your Worship, on the correspondence. It's been very spotty. Haven't seen anything recently from them. They have been working through their industry lobbyist association to try to pressure the provincial government to loosening restrictions that they have to operate on. So we were getting some communications from them, but it's been radio silence for the past few months. So we can reach out and see if there's anything.
The good news is I believe they're still up to date on their taxes. So that's a good thing because they pay a large tax bill here in this township.
And just as a really quick follow-up, in that the Canadian gaming was sold to Apollo. Our agreement regarding the casino is with the OLG. So whatever agreement has been in place remains in place regardless. That be a fair interpretation?
That's correct. Apollo assumed the obligations of Great Canadian when the sale was closed, and OLG confirmed that from our standpoint, we still get a check. So.
Yes, and I don't believe there's an expiry date as long as they have an active gaming license within our municipality. We receive that check. Yes, I believe that's how it's worded. We can double check that, but if I'm not mistaken, Councillor Jameson.
Just a comment on the fact that we had budgeted 100,000 and that we have 50,000. That is beginning to look like a very prudent move. We have a $50,000 problem, not a $550,000 problem. So it's to our treasurer for making sure we didn't bite off more than we can chew in the last budget. But I suspect we may be looking at a zero budget going into 2022. If my suggestion would be budget zero and be surprised in a positive way. Thank you.
Well, and just to add to that, I think Councillor Gorell asked at committee of the whole in regards to how those funds are allocated and if we're not budgeting to receive the revenue. There's very specific terms in regards to those monies coming from OLG. Has to be used for capital projects, but other than the community support grants that we allocate year over year, which will be difficult again this year, I think, based on the lack of funds that are coming forward, and that'll be something that we'll have to discuss at budget time. But the good news is that because we were fiscally prudent based on the guidance of our treasurer and the staff here, we're not looking at, as Councillor Jameson said, a much larger problem and a reduction in revenues. So we're benefactors of good planning from that point of view. So thank you. Any further discussion on the information items that are on the agenda to be received? Seeing none, I'll call the question. All those in favor? All those opposed? And we're carried. Okay, next is the really long one for the tax motion. Any unfinished business? Anybody? Seeing none, I'll move forward to the next motion, which is moved by Councillor Olkey and seconded by Councillor Gorell. Sit tight. Whereas the province of Ontario announced in the 2020 budget that for the 2021 calendar year, business education tax BET reductions would be implemented to support businesses as they recover from the COVID-19 pandemic. And whereas in an effort to ensure municipalities would not be negatively impacted by the BET reductions, the province maintained BET rates at the 2020 BET rate for properties owned by the provincial government for the purpose of PILs, payment in lieu of taxes. And whereas there are 3 properties owned by the federal government within the Township of Leeds and the Thousand Islands that fall within this rate class, and whereas the federal government has not indicated whether it tends to utilize the reduced BET rate of 0.0088 or the legislated rate of 0.0125 when it remits its 2021 PIL. And whereas while the anticipated loss in the revenue for the township in respect to these 3 federally owned properties, if the reduced BET was used, is nominal, the revenue loss to municipalities across Ontario is estimated to be at 20 million in 2021 by OMTRA if the federal government does not pay the legislated BET rate. Now, therefore, the Council of the Township of Leeds and the Thousand Islands respectfully requests that the federal government and all federal crown corporations recognize that the province's 2021 BET reduced rates are intended to support Ontario businesses during the burden of COVID-19, and they are not intended to reduce the federal government's fair share for consumption of local services. And further, that the federal government and all crown corporations commit to paying the legislated BET rate of 0.0125 for 2021. And further, that this resolution be forwarded to the Prime Minister, Justin Trudeau, MP Barrett, MPP Clark, and AMO. Any discussion on the motion? Go ahead, Councillor Olkey.
Thank you, Your Worship, for you. I'm just wondering, I just hope this turns out not to be too bitter a pill to swallow. But statements like properties that reduced BET is used is nominal. What does nominal actually mean? Do we have dollar figures? Please and thank you.
This motion, just while the treasurer is coming forward, this motion is to support the other jurisdictions that have significant payments that they won't be receiving if this is followed. This is more about solidarity, but it's a good question nonetheless. Go ahead, Madam Treasurer.
Through your worship. So when it comes to payment in lieu of taxes, a lot of times we don't really know what they're going to pay until we actually receive the payment. So we don't have the payments yet, but the amount we're looking at is potentially only about $500. It's not significant, but the reason we're bringing the motion forward, or I brought the motion forward, is because all the lower tier treasurers have discussed this and some of them are facing more significant challenges.
Would $500 be the top amount or the reduced amount?
That was the loss, I think.
Loss.
That's the difference. So if they pay at the lower rate, we would lose $500.
What would be the higher rate if, well, okay, you said we wouldn't know until they did it.
Right. So I think the difference between the rate that they should pay and the rate that they may pay is we would lose $500 in revenue.
Any further comments or questions in regards to this motion? Seeing none, I'll call the question. All those in favor? All those opposed? And it's carried, and you can go back to your group of treasurers, Madam Treasurer, and let them know that we're in support of them. Thank you. Next motion is moved by Councillor Gorell and seconded by Councillor Olkey that council authorize staff to award the inspection and detailed design of the Ivy Lee Wharf to JML Engineering in the amount of $103,749.41, inclusive of net HST. Discussion on this motion. Go ahead, Councillor Maybe.
Thank you, Your Worship, and through you. Just wondering if there is an intended time that this report might be back to council with what recommendations they might have.
Through you, Your Worship, the timeline for the design is completion by July of 2022.
So design would be completed 2022 with the hopes that we would execute design the end of 2022, beginning of 2023.
They anticipate that we will be in construction, completed construction by the end of next year.
Okay.
So all of the in-water work would be completed this fall, all of the surveying, underwater investigations, geotechnical, everything will be completed through the winter, the fall and winter. Detailed design completed by the spring of next year, and then we'll be ready for construction starting in July. That's the soonest we can get in the water as well, given the fish window.
Yeah. Go ahead, follow up, Councillor Maybe,
Yeah.
and then I'll recognize Deputy
Yeah,
Mayor.
did have a quick follow-up there. With the design, and I know some other people have talked about this, is the actual rampway, and I know we talked about this once before, but in this initial design, is there any possibility of making it straight down instead of having to turn to go to the rampway?
We did look at the making the ramp straight, and the concern is the amount of flow, the flow of the water that runs through there. It would cause some issues with the ramp itself. I met with a local contractor, and they felt that the location of the existing ramp is the best location for there because of this flow. The pier itself creates a barrier for that, and you don't have your side swaying that you would have.
Does create an eddy, yes.
We did look though at the same time at the ramp itself, and we think that there is an opportunity to widen the ramp to accommodate larger boats at that location. Yeah, and turning movements.
Yeah, excellent. Thank you.
Excellent. Any further comments or questions in regards to the motion that's at hand? Oh, sorry, Deputy Mayor, my apologies.
Thank you, Your Worship, and through you, why do you think Greer Galloway did not provide geotechnical costs?
I think it was an oversight on their part. I know that they spoke in their report to geotechnical, and we had said that the municipality would pay the cost of the geotechnical, but everybody else understood that we needed that cost. It was part of the work plan that was required from them, and they failed to provide that cost.
Well, I know you and I took a trip down there. And
Can you speak into your microphone just so that people can hear? That's
sorry, Your Worship.
okay.
Yeah, we took a trip down there, and there's definitely some improvements that could be done. So hopefully could be done soon.
Yep.
Any further comments or questions for this particular motion? Seeing none, I'll call the question. All those in favor, please signify. All those opposed, and we're carried. We look forward to the design and the eventual completion of that. I know that it's very important to our island residents and our contractors. Okay, next motion moved by Councillor Gorell and seconded by Councillor Olkey that council approve the zoning bylaw amendment attached to the planning report SR-120-21 as Exhibit F to amend the rural residential special exception 11 RR-11, the rural residential special exception 12-H, RR-12-H, and the rural residential special exception 13-H, RR-13-H zones to allow the area of land zone floodplain to be included in the calculation of total lot area. Discussion on this motion? Seeing none, I will call the question. All those in favor? All those opposed? And it's carried. Thank you. Next motion moved by Counselor Grell, seconded by Counselor Oki, that council approve the zoning bylaw amendment attached to planning report SR 121-21 as exhibit F to rezone the subject property to environmental protection special exception zone 5 EP-5 to permit the marine facility on the property to include a rooftop deck. Discussion on this motion. Go ahead, Counselor Grell.
I would just like clarity on the township zoning bylaw with respect to the height of a marine facility and what is the datum line? And yes, what exactly is the datum line for all reference with this sort of a marine facility? Thank you.
Madam Planner, do you have an answer for that? We'll give her a moment to look that up to make sure that we are getting the correct info.
And just for clarity, it's the maximum permitted height position that I'm asking for. How would that be determined? Thank you.
So what the zoning bylaw says is that marine facilities shall not exceed 6 meters in height measured from the high water.
Okay. That's a 20 feet approximately for those who think in feet, not in meters. Are there any further questions in regards to that information? Go ahead, Deputy Mayor.
Thank you, Your Worship. Is this a floating structure?
Yes, it is. Oh,
So-
wait, so.
No,
let me-
no,
No,
it's-
it's not.
No, it's cement top, I think.
Yeah, no, it's not a floating structure. It's permanent.
It's permanent.
Permanent structure,
Yes.
but they want to have something on the roof.
A rooftop deck. Yes.
Well, do you think we're going to have that much water that it's going to reach the roof?
I
No.
don't think that was an issue.
I think the concern was with the height fluctuating based on the water level, potentially
Would
fluctuating.
it affect neighbors or water view and that sort of thing? I think that's why the question was asked, not because they're worried about high water. Fair enough. Fair question. Any further comments? Go ahead, Councilor Meany.
Thank you, Your Worship, and through you. Was there any consideration for it to be a floating boathouse instead of, or dockage, marine, whatever it would like to be? Was there any consideration for it to be floating, less impact on the environment? And then height for water fluctuation doesn't make too much difference?
I can't speak to that specific because that's not what the applicant has applied for, so it hasn't been reviewed in that context.
This is council. Generally, we don't open up questions to the public. Mr. Perry is on the line, and his hand is up. It's up to the will of council if you want to allow that. It's my final decision. Oh, he's put it down? Okay. Yeah. At this point, I think the answers were given at the planning meeting earlier, but are there any further questions of the planner at this point? Go ahead, Councillor Foti.
Thank you, Your Worship. Comment more than anything. For those who think in feet, it's 19 feet, 8.2 inches. So it's less than 20 feet,
Less than 20.
3 meters.
Okay.
Yes.
So, and that's a pretty good ballpark there, Councillor Oki. Any further questions or comments? I'll call the question. All those in favor, please signify. All those opposed, and we're carried. Okay, mayor's update. short and easy tonight. Leeds in the Thousand Islands Fire Services will be completing their tanker shuttle testing on Saturday, October 23rd. This is a critical aspect of our rural fire services. It measures the team's ability to maintain a continuous flow of water at a fire using alternative water sources. Testing is planned for the north end of the township. Please give our fire services space on the roads as they complete this important test on October 23rd. It is a Saturday. October 17th kicks off Small Business Week. Let's celebrate our small businesses and our entrepreneurs and their contribution to our local economy, as well as the jobs that they provide and the fabric that they weave into our communities. It's a great excuse to shop local. So please get out there and patronize our small businesses. The Township's Waste Management Working Group is surveying the community. Please take a moment to complete the online survey. So if you have not done so, soon as you log on to the Township website, it automatically pops up. So Leeds, thousandislands.ca. It'll automatically pop up, and we are looking for as many survey responses as possible as we form the next steps for waste management in the municipality. Halloween is fast approaching on October 31st. Please take care of driving around with our little ghouls and goblins, and they'll be out trick-or-treating. There are lots of great ideas online if you're interested in no or low contact trick-or-treating. We do know that in Sealy's Bay, there's going to be local businesses are putting together some collective candy stops, if you will. We appreciate the organization of those businesses and bring something a little special. I'm sure as time comes closer to the event that we might see more of that pop up. So just make sure that your children are wearing high visibility clothing. Depending on the time of year, it could be a snowsuit under high visibility clothing. Yeah, we'll dig out your snowsuit, I'm sure. Do you have your trick treat bag to go? The way that he hates candy, but anyways, please be safe. And I'm sure that we'll be changing clocks here in the next month as well. So we'll be falling back. I don't know the date on that, but November 7th, I guess it'll be at the next meeting. I'll make that announcement, but, and change your smoke alarm batteries as well. Councillor Foti, you have something to add to my mayor's update?
Thank you, Your Worship. I don't want to interview the mayor's or interfere with the mayor's update, but perhaps for residents' sake, my own included, we could have the fire chief elaborate as to what time this fire shuttle will take place, so that we don't have phones going off as to where this emergency is that nobody can find. Thank you.
Fire chief.
And through your worship, the tanker shuttle will be starting around 8 o'clock in the morning and will go approximately till noon, maybe 1 o'clock. So it'll be, we'll be using the Sealy's Bay dry hydrant, and we'll be going out to the Pitot Suites at 32 Highway at Tackaberries. So we hope to be done that as quick as we can. We should only have to pump for 2 full hours, and that will hopefully certify us in what we need.
Wonderful. Thank you. Any further announcements? Go ahead, Councillor. Oh, sorry. Now I'm getting ahead of myself here. He threw me off. First, I have notices of motion. Are there any notices of motion? Any notices of motion? Seeing none, I'm on to announcements. I'll recognize Councillor Olkey and then Councillor Jameson.
Okay. Go ahead. She thinks I'm you and.
Sometimes she thinks you're me.
Yeah.
Thank you, Your Worship. And from my side of the balcony, I'd just like to mention something I had circulated earlier today, the Lynx webinar via a conservation authority. This is for all those who love and appreciate the lakes, whether just from the point of view of admiring the scenery or active involvement with boating and fishing and stuff. It will be on the Saturday, October 23rd, between 10 and 12:30 p.m. The link has been forwarded to you, and I'll put it up on my website as well. Thank you.
Perfect. Councillor Jameson. Fine, sir.
That's me. Not to belabor the point about October 23rd and the food bank drive. which is going to be in Lansdowne, Sealy's Bay, as well as Lyndhurst. So it's a drive into, not a drive around like we used to do. So we're sticking that way, but I'd just like to thank the library for getting heavily involved with the Role Aid Center. And I'd also like to thank Community and Business Services for being involved. And it's just a great partnership, but it's something we really need to address. It's a tough year for a lot of people. So hoping that the food bank, we all step up. We've got 3 locations. Please take advantage. I'm so glad the library is involved. It's good news. The other thing I want to mention is, I'm always taking these darn courses. I took that first asset management course that we were offered, once every week for the rest of our lives. So it seemed that way. And anyway, I took the first one and it was very simple. I understood it. So I think that one's coming on tape. It's about the governance aspects and what our roles might actually be. So I recommend that if that one comes up as a tape, I do recommend that. But I found it was an hour of my life I was glad to invest. So I encourage you, my colleagues on council, to consider that Friday afternoon. You won't regret it.
I did the same online course, and what I liked about it was the examples that they used of other municipalities who went down this path sooner than we did, and the results that they're seeing, and the ability to deal with major project issues well before they become major issues. And I think that's the whole purpose behind asset management, and getting our whole team laser focused to manage as best we can so that we can avoid those major investments down the road if we can. Is there any other announcements? Oh, Deputy Mayor.
Thank you, Your Worship. 2 things. You mentioned the food bank on the 23rd. You can come to my house. That's my birthday. I'd like a little bit of food. I would invite everybody here to go to the Tipsy Goat. If you haven't been there, it's very interesting. It's much like you have in Sealy's Bay. You can get great coffee. You can get several things. It's a new and interesting business here in the village. Well worth the visit.
Perfect. I'll also add to the gentleman from the Northerly Ward. Frost Fest is back on the docket. I just got the email today. So that's February. So hopefully, provided, knock on wood, we keep on the path that we are with COVID and we're able to gather. It would be nice to get out in the winter time and see everybody and participate. It's always a good time out in Sealy's Bay. So that's February the 4th, something like that. We've got time. We'll have the correct date. Councillor Fody.
Thank you, Your Worship. Councillor Jameson hit on a good point with the food banks. I've heard more than once in the past couple of weeks about people wanting to give away tomatoes and beets and carrots. I think it escapes the average resident that the food bank would be more than willing to receive those. Just put them in a bag and supply them. It's I'm sure they'd be well received. I really do. But I think there's too many residents don't think of the food bank first when it comes to ample garden supplies.
Fair enough. Deputy Mayor, and then back to Jameson.
Sorry, just a shout out to Bob Griffin and Griffin's Cottages, because he donates I don't know how many pounds, probably a ton of potatoes to the food bank. God bless him.
He has done that for years. Yeah. Councillor Jameson.
Just to extend on Councillor Fody's thinking about fresh produce in the food bank, which can often be, as you understand, a challenge because of timing and so on. But it brings up one of the projects that I would love to see us pursue through grants is a portable professional kitchen that we can move to farms, we can move around, we can move to farms to assist in canning, all kinds of things like that. It's something that's been discussed. I've been on a committee that meets now and again with Kim Goodman involved. But I'd certainly like to see us think about that as a going away present. And I'll come around and help you raise the money, Terry. Thank you.
Also, since we're recognizing other businesses, I noticed that Wendy's Country Market had put up a post that she feels thankful and both thankful and fortunate to see her vision for Furnace Falls Farm and Forest School come to fruition in collaboration with the Frontenac Archbiosphere. She extended a huge thank you to her parents, Cornacre Farms, and the generous use of their land for kids to explore while they're learning. So these are the type of initiatives that our business owners are taking upon themselves to help get back to the land. And I know this has been a challenge for decades with children not really understanding where food comes from. If you ask them where milk comes from, it comes from the store. I feel grateful that I was able to grow up in a way that I understood where food came from on a daily basis and the consequences if it didn't rain or it did rain too much or machinery breaks down, what have you. And we just got finished agricultural week here in Ontario as well. We're very heavily based in agriculture here, but it's great to see Wendy really championing that. And that's definitely her forte. And I'm very happy for her and happy for the children that'll be able to participate in that program. So any further announcements? Councillor maybe.
Yes, thank you, Madam Mayor. Just to inform everybody, December 4th, Gananoque Christmas Parade will be happening. That is already in the works of being scheduled. Paperwork is out for people to register in that. And also the Joint Chamber of Commerce is looking for something to do with Lansdowne one. So there's something in the works there. Just not quite sure the actual date on that one yet. So
Okay.
December
Excellent.
4th is the Gananoque one, yes.
Excellent.
And it will be a regular parade this time.
It won't be a standstill parade.
No.
Got it. Okay, any further comments or announcements? Seeing none, we'll go to the bylaws. So the motion's made by Councillor Olkey, seconded by Councillor Gorell, that 3 readings, final passage be granted to bylaws number 21-055, number 21-056, number 21-057, number 21-058, number 21-059, and that 3 readings and final passage be granted to bylaw number 21-060, being a bylaw to confirm the proceedings of the corporation of the Township of Leeds and the Thousand Islands at its committee of the whole meeting held on October 4th, 2021, and its council meeting held on October 12th, 2021. Any discussion on the motion? Seeing none, I'll call the question. All those in favor? All those opposed? And we're carried. And next is adjournment, moved by Councillor Olkey, seconded by Councillor Gorell, that council adjourn. All those in favor? All those opposed? And we're carried. Thank you, everyone. Have a lovely evening.